I mean, Mike Walls is national security advisor in comparison to some of these other appointees that we've seen. I mean, at least he has foreign policy experience. He's on the House Foreign Affairs Committee and House Armed Services Committee. Not excited about Walls, but at least he has experience on foreign policy matters. We can't say the same for, say, Secretary Hegseth, who is just a cable news talking head, and a Christian Reconstructionist associated with a man who literally runs a church that says that women, never should have gotten the right to vote. I think it fares really poorly for the China policy. I think the USTR pick is going to be interesting. Going to be a lot of friction in trying to square the circle of making America wealthy again, maintaining the US dollar as the reserve currency, while also ramping up a trade war. I mean, none of those things make sense together.
The nominees that people aren't concerned about, like, for example, the Rubio pick. I mean, Rubio is one of the most...
I'm concerned about Rubio.
I am too, but I'm just saying, this is what's so bizarre about the conversation we have in Washington is oh, wow, okay, what a relief. Marco Rubio, one of the biggest, most hardcore ideological neoconservatives in the Senate, as if that is a good thing. It is not. I was actually in Berlin a couple weeks ago, assisting colleagues over there in their grief therapy after the election. And, some of them, I was in this kind of big discussion, and someone was like, well, Marco Rubio, he's at least, the neoconservative ideology is something we at least understand. It's within the kind of, there was this sense of it's at least within the family of acceptable ideologies.
Is it?
Right. So first of all, I challenged that premise, but I also said, just forget what Marco Rubio once said about anything, because what all of these people have in common is that they've been housebroken by Trump. I mean, that is the first thing to understand. Rubio is one of these guys who's supportive of these massive sanctions regimes that help produce massive immigration. So, I'm kind of concerned how that's going to play out. Some people are concerned about Tulsi Gabbard at DNI. I understand those concerns. I share some of them. She has a definition of being pro-peace that I would probably not fully agree with. I mean, it's kind of the kind of sympathy she seems to have shown toward, Putin or Assad in Syria, though I absolutely avoid any kind of assertion that, oh, she's a foreign asset. These are kind of accusations I think people in Washington throw around way too recklessly. The idea that we should be less concerned about Rubio than about Gabbard, I think, is just part of the problem of the U.S. foreign policy discussion. So I think there are legitimate reasons, legitimate concerns about both of them. I just think the fact that Rubio is just seen as, okay, acceptable, despite the fact that he clearly has wanted to start wars all over the place. Whereas Gabbard, who wants the opposite, but also takes some, I think, troublingly sympathetic views of some bad regimes. I mean, the second one, who doesn't want wars everywhere, is seen as more of a problem.
Yes, this is my concern, dude. The Rubio stuff, I think people have this the enemy type comfort. Yeah. You've got these primacist hawks who never saw a war that they didn't like. Yeah. And then they're feeding that into the system. And they're like, well, how can I add this to this larger tapestry of what is ultimately going to be like an imperial foreign policy? Mm-hmm. And so it's the voice of somebody like a Bridge Colby or a Rubio, when they're obsessing about China, they get to be the voice for that. But if they happen to be dovish on some other issue, that doesn't matter, because there's going to be some other set of hawks on that other issue, you know? And so the chorus together is a kind of fucking nightmare. The Tulsi Gabbard thing is super, super weird. I don't like how the fact that she was for peace in certain places has been kind of used against her as some discrediting thing. But she is super, super weird. This cult that she grew up in Hawaii is needs more daylight. And then the likelihood that she's going to end up sort of strategy washing Hindu fascism, and we're gonna we're already giving a pass to Modi in a pretty egregious way.
Yes.
That's going to become even worse,
Yeah.